Welcome to the Donna Seebo Show. Donna is an international mental practitioner, psychic, award-winning author, counselor, speaker, teacher, and radio television talk show personality. She brings to the airwaves talented people from around the world who share their insights and experiences with you, the listening audience. Now, let's join Donna.
Hello, I'm so delighted that you're joining me this evening because we are traveling to England. Yes, we are. And we are traveling to meet a man. His name is Roy Bettridge, and his publication is called The Avengers. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever seen the program, but I've had the good fortune to be able to watch a couple of the programs, actually a few more than that, and it is absolutely amazingly wonderful to be a part of. When I found out about this book, I said, okay, I want to know more about the Avengers because I adored Mrs. Peel, and I adored Mr. Steed, and they were characters that became you might say, into the hearts and minds of millions of people in different parts of the world, and they are, to this day, loved. And boy, oh boy, are you in for a treat, because if you have ever seen any of the Avenger productions, they were amazing, and we're going to be talking about the history, but this book is extraordinarily unusual. I want to welcome to the show Roy Bettridge. Roy, what an accomplishment. You did something very unique with this. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Donna. A pleasure to be here.
I was intrigued because you have also, this page after page is just fascinating to me, but you have the foreword written by Dame Joanna Lumley, and she actually was in the series at a particular point. This is just a historical publication, but you turned it into games and asking people to, do all kinds of things, crossword puzzles, etc. Where did you get the concept for that? This, for the fans of the adventure, this is absolutely a must-have.
Well, thank you very much. It came pretty much whilst I was in a bookshop in Kettering, where I live here in the UK. I saw a book, an unofficial quiz book for another BBC programme, and one thought I had to myself was that this hadn't been done for the Avengers, and I'd been an Avengers fan for nearly 30 years running so far. So it just struck me, and I knew I had some contacts in the powers that be with the rights holders. So I just pitched an idea to, well, what do you think? A quiz book on this show, and I immediately thought it was going to be a negative, and within the hour they responded and said, well, that actually sounds like a very good idea, and sounds like it could come together quickly, and before you know it, I was writing the book, and that's when my troubles started. But it was a really, really, it took 12 months to put together, and it was such a labor of love, and from the beginning to the end, I wanted to encapsulate as much of the series as I could, right from the beginnings with Ian Hendry, right the way through towards the end, to the current Big Finish audio productions that are done here in the UK. And mentioning Dame Joanna, originally the forward was put forward to Linda Thorson, who played Tara King. But along the line, she had to depart the project. So I kind of did the worrying and the head scratching, and got in touch with Dame Joanna, who immediately turned around and said, well, what do you need? Tell me what you need. And what she gave me is in the book that you're holding. So it was such a fantastic thing to have someone who was actually a part of the series to be involved in this book. It really was such a dream come true, as was writing the entire book.
Well, I was fascinated with the fact because she and another very famous actress who was in James Bond movies, and her name is escaping me right at the moment. But
Honor Blackman.
yes, I mean, these are two women that have been honored by the Queen, and they've just received accolades for their acting performances. But what I smiled at when I was reading is that Joanna, what she said was she had never been to a drama school. She went through no training, and she had done acting and done different things. She had even appeared in a Dracula film. Gee whiz, don't we love to know that we've been in one of those? And all of this, and here you have all of this background she went through, and then she's asked to be in this series. And reading her description of what she went through, she had 15 minutes to learn how to ride a motorcycle, and I just envision myself trying to do something like that, and I'd say, thanks, but I'm not volunteering, this is...
And in 15 minutes as well.
Yes.
That's good. That'd be quite a feat.
In 15 minutes.
And yes, it was. You see, Dame Joanna was part of the New Avengers, which was the sequel to the original series, and it ran from 1976 to 1977, and it was a very different kind of production. It was all independent, and it was done quite fast to get these stories out, and the stories were absolutely fabulous. There were some of them were a little bit off kilter, but that was the Avengers world anyway. If you didn't go off kilter, then you knew you weren't watching the right show. But yes, she was put through a lot of paces, along with Gareth Hunt, who played Mike Gambit, who was joining our dear Patrick. It was a trio. So it was it was so kind of her to put that in the introduction, I found, because that is a great personal insight into what the actual workings of this type of show actually was. It was absolutely wonderful of her to do that.
Now, I was fascinated with the fact that the original Avengers ran actually for 8 years. That was something I had no awareness of, but it did have a very, very long run. And then the New Avengers came out, and you said that was 2 years. That ran for 2 years.
Yes, it was. It was the original run of the series ran for 161 episodes from 1961 to 69. So it covered almost the entire decade, which would be quite a feat to if you could match anything like that today. That would be quite something. And there was something like a 7-year gap in between the two series, and then the New Avengers came along due to French interest, and the backing was produced, and it was handed over to three greats in their industry: the late Brian Clemens, Albert Fennell, and Laurie Johnson. May they rest in peace, three fine gentlemen that they were.
Yes, and you honor them in your book. You have the Paul O'Grady in memoriam. He was a comedian, a writer, a presenter, and loved...
He was amazing. He was an absolutely avid Avengers fan. He was a truly amazing man. He really was. It was so sad when he passed, and a lot of people in the UK felt his passing, and also as you mentioned in memoriam, Raymond Austin,
yes.
The stuntman initially on the Avengers, became a director, a writer in his own right. I mean, as we said, the talent that was involved in this show was absolutely the creme de la creme. So yes, and it has lost so many along the way, but their talent really did speak for them. They were absolutely awe-inspiring.
Well, and also you have a commentary in your book about by Sam Clemens, and his dad actually was very much involved with the Avengers. Brian Clemens was his father, and
correct, yes.
He said it just his absolute focus was Patrick McNee, and he was the one that played Sneed, and it just absolutely he was just an amazing portrayal. And before we started our conversation this evening, what I remember you're saying is that he encapsulated the character so much. He was.
Absolutely, yes, completely. He was, and we've got another thing you've got to remember is that he was the foil to Ian Hendry in the very first series. The very first series was conceived as a vehicle for Ian Hendry, and Patrick McNee was found by Sidney Newman, who he wanted to be a part of this new show that he was involved in the conception of, and thank goodness, because what a talent, what an absolute talent, because Patrick McNee at that time was a producer in Canada, and he had been an actor, he'd been a very fine actor, and he had kind of not turned his back on things from what I gather, but he had kind of transformed himself into being behind the camera. And then he was offered the role to be John Steed, and he really did create it from the ground up. What you see on the screen is all Patrick McNee. It really is something, and it's been heartwarming also to hear from people that I've spoken to in regards to when I was putting the book together, of how he really was, that the two, Steed and McNee, were so like granite. The two of them were, and that really does fill me with a lot of pride, because I absolutely love Patrick McNee. He is my favourite character. John Steed is the one that sold it all for me, and I even now mourn his passing 9 years on. It was a great loss. Great loss.
Well, what was so fascinating is that he totally became the character. He became that characterization, and my goodness, I don't know, I don't recall him ever getting rumpled. He just always, and the umbrella and the bowler hat, those were symbols. I mean, those were just amazing, and of course, that was before James Bond, but you had all of the compliments of extremely intelligent script. It was just amazing. And it was in black and white for a lot of people. And I think eventually it did go into color. I don't know. I never saw any of the shows.
Yes, you're quite right. Its first 4 seasons were in color. No, the first 4 seasons rather were in black and white. The 5th and 6th seasons were in color. I know it was the seasons were split over in America when it came to the color series. But yes, it very much went through a lot of transitions during its lifetime, and it survived fantastically, and it still holds up absolutely fantastically well.
It really does. Emma Peel. Now, Diana Riggs, the two of them together, there was just always this questioning, gee, do they really know each other that well? You know, I can remember watching the first, and she's so cool, and her martial art movements just amazed me. And I can remember when I saw them, I went, oh my goodness, she's Catwoman. You know, she's just...
Yes.
But this is...
Yes, it was very much a genuine... you could feel the genuine rapport between the two of them. They were simpatico with each other. They just had to give each other a look and they knew what they were saying. And the casting of Diana Rigg, well, you'd take more than your hat off to everyone involved in that. And the world got such a fantastic star when she appeared in the Avengers, and she went on to be she was a fantastic actress, absolutely fantastic actress, and again another one that is so sadly missed, because she really was the real deal. She was amazing.
It's so intriguing to be able to look at these productions that were done in the 50s and the 60s and see that chemistry that existed and how, the series went on for such a long time. How is it that Diana Riggs was no longer in that complete series? There were the 4 women that played opposite of, of Steed. What was it that caused the transition from one to the other?
Well, it was a variety of reasons. With Honor Blackman, who played Kathy Gale, it was pursuit of a film career. She went straight from the Avengers into Goldfinger with Sean Connery as James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
And Diana Rigg, she went through a lot behind the camera that was not very nice, but she went back to the theatre. The theatre was definitely her calling and where she felt safe, not safest, but she played better. She didn't have the restrictions of a TV show and everything else, and she could throw the net of choice of how she wanted to play character and go more in depth. And she didn't want to be pigeonholed as just one character, and any actor or actress, that would be how it was. Linda Thorson, I think we only lost her when the series died out. I reckon she could have gone on for more than the 33 episodes than she made. She was one hell of a find. She was straight out of drama school when she got the Avengers gig, and my God, what a talent to find, because she's absolutely immense and amazing. And of course, as we mentioned, Joanna Lumley, she came from being a model. She did a few bit parts here and there, and then all of a sudden, here comes Purdy. It's all 4 women brought something that kept this show alive and kept its flame burning. And it all began with Mr. Ian Hendry, who, of course, went on to become another fantastic movie star. And we also had Gareth Hunt in the new Avengers, another fantastic star in his own right.
All of these fascinating characters. Now, your book has puzzles of all kinds. You have quizzes of all kinds. So anybody who really is into games, then they would enjoy this. Probably they'd have to go and watch, find these programs on YouTube.
Oh, absolutely. The message is to take in this show. Even if you've never seen it, take a chance. Go and have a look at it. This is fantastic entertainment. It is brilliant. It is a fantastic show. And it's also there for the fans across the world. Come on in, test your knowledge. If you didn't know it, you know it now. But let's just have some fun. Let's go right from the first question, right through the puzzles, right through everything else. And we will get there with a smile on our face. We'll grab that bowler hat and umbrella and we'll toast in the evening with the champagne.
Oh, absolutely. One of the puzzles you have in here, you title it Have a Word. And to find the following episode titles, I don't know who put this puzzle together, but I looked at it and thought I'd be cross-eyed within a couple of minutes. But it's to find the episode titles like Nightmare, Warlock, Dragon's Field, Bullseye, Pandora, Thingamajig, Mandrake.
Yes, I had so much fun coming up with that puzzle. It was because what I wanted to do was to inject as much as I could into this. I was only going to get one shot, and not only that, but it was the very first book like this of its kind within the canon of books that have been done on the series, that have been done by fabulous and fantastic writers before me. So if I was going to have a shot at something, I wanted to give as much in the melting pot as I could. And I had a great support system around me, telling me, yeah, go for it, do this, do that, be out there, be adventurous. And there were some that looked at it and came back at me and said, that's actually immense. That is immense. So to hear that's been, to hear your reaction from it is really, really heartwarming, because it's that kind of reaction I wanted to invoke. This book is fun. You get into it. Oh, there were one-word episode titles. Well, how many can I find? That kind of thing.
Well, and then you have Sudoku. And this one, it's Sudoku 1, and it You're to complete the picture pattern using the key below. You have Steed, David Keel, Kathy Gale, Emma Peel, Tara King, Purdy, Mike Gambit, Mother, and Rhonda. And you've got to put this all together. And I go, wow, this is really something. You have really done an incredible thing. Now let's talk about Mother for a minute. Because
of course.
When I first saw, and I don't remember what sequel it was because it's been a few years back, but Mother, when I was hearing conversation, I remember watching the television screen and saying, Mother? Who's Mother? They would say, well, we must go talk to Mother. Or Mother says, this is what you should do. You know, it was so English. And by golly, to find out that it's a man? Mother is a man? Really?
Take the hat off to the late, great Brian Clemens. That episode was absolutely genius. The Forget-Me-Not is that episode, the first one to feature Mother, and played so brilliantly by Patrick Newell. Absolutely fantastic. But yes, in the world of the Avengers, the head of your department will be a man with a female code name. It's just how it goes.
It just is absolutely amazing. And the fact that this guy was huge and had these very expensive tastes, and you look, this is Mother? You know, it's wonderful. It's just absolutely
And another
wonderful.
fantastic gimmick about Mother, sorry to interrupt, but another fantastic gimmick about Mother was every single episode he was in, the headquarters changed. His headquarters went from being in a swimming pool one moment to the next episode being on the top of a double-decker bus. I mean, it was unbelievable. But this would only happen in the world of the Avengers.
Ah, yes. And the time frames, and Mrs. Peel always very, very proper with her martial arts and other expressions. But the interaction, the script writing, and I often would think this is so spontaneous. Maybe they went off script. But whatever it was, there was this satire that was in the show. Even though someone was murdered or what have you, you know, there was this whole different environment. And of course, we had to go after those people that were just not doing the right things. And it's just delightful. It is absolutely delightful. You must
it
have...
It is. I mean, they tapped into the characters that they had created. And it was, I mean, as you say, the writing, the whole show had such a fantastic melting pot of talent that was working in front of the camera, behind the camera, designers, the producers, the directors. It was as we said before, the creme de la creme of who was in the industry at the time. And not only just behind, I mean, the guest stars in the show. There are about 4 sections in the book called Who's Who, and it's a challenge to see if you can remember who the people were that played these characters. And this was an absolute melting pot. These fantastic actors that were appearing week after week, you would see them in your absolutely favorite show. Peter Wingard, he appeared in 4 episodes. Peter Bowles, he played 4 villains. And the late great Donald Sutherland, he was in the Superlative 7 from season 5. This was an absolute must-see television experience.
Oh, no question about that. And also, then, there was, you have in your section, The Correct Way to Kill. Now that, you know, what was the name of the organization being used as a front to train enemy agents? Well, what was the place visited by Emma Peel and Ivan only for Ivan to disappear? I mean, these questions, you must have not gotten any sleep for a long time trying to put all of this together.
I mean, I've been a fan of the show since I was 9 years of age. We're talking 1995 here when it first came into my life. And it's been such a passion of mine. And I've literally watched the show back to front with all the episodes that are available, which is why if when the last lost episode to be rediscovered, Tunnel of Fear from Ian Hendry's era, I was all over that. I mean, I was literally watching that morning, noon, and night, and I'd done the same with all the other episodes. So it's the questions that are set in the book come very much from someone who has literally poured a lot of time over these episodes, hopefully for people to enjoy and spend time on and get the fun of what this project has been.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, the 50,000-pound breakfast? Seriously?
Yes.
I mean, and this is involving dogs and a puppet?
It is, yes.
And
yes, it was actually a remake. It was a remake of the Honor Blackman episode Death of a Great Dane, and involves a supposedly deceased millionaire called Alex Litoff, and how a diamond smuggling operation was performed by having the smuggler carry the diamonds in his stomach. I mean, that's if you can't get any wackier than that, then I'd love to shake someone by the hand that thinks that they can. But this was the thing. This was the world of the Avengers. The wacky made sense. You know, giant rats don't exist in London sewers, but in the world of the Avengers, it would happen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a sci-fi to a degree, because it was very futuristic in a lot of the things that it was portraying, and yet it was very orderly, and at the same time, it gave the appearance, especially with Steed and Emma Peel, because that's the part that I remember, and there was always this logic that was at work. Of course, it was totally illogical. It didn't make any difference, but it was logic by the time they finished expressing whatever was being expressed or doing whatever they did. And you just go, this is out of the box. Out of the box. It's not in the box.
Very much so. And you say the sci-fi element of it was very, very much touched on in the Diana Rigg years. There's an episode called The Positive Negative Man. One man sprayed in a chemical oil that turns him into an electric dynamo. And with one touch, he will literally give you the biggest shock of your life that will end your life. This was so off the wall, but it was so out there that you'd have to suspend disbelief just to sit there and watch it and take it all in. It was just an amazing, amazing time. The writers really, really hit stride with their imaginations.
Well, I think that it shows. One of the things that I find, and I'm going to backstep here for a minute, one of the things that I find with a lot of the productions that were done in the 50s and 60s, they were making breakthroughs with what the vision was. What do we see? And a lot of what has been portrayed in some of these old movies, my goodness, these theories and attitudes and other things were very, very prevalent, even from the 1800s, but they didn't have very much of a, public presence. And this is quite a tumultuous cycle, the 50s and the 60s, both in England as well as in the United States. And it is something that opened up the doors to imagination and creativity that I think still goes on today, but it has a whole different feel to it. And you made a comment to me before we started our conversation, that was that in that period, you didn't have as much of a distraction as we have today, because there are so many things that you can watch. I mean, I can go on YouTube and watch a farmer doing new agricultural practices, and the next thing I know, I can be watching a Marvel movie if I want, about the Avengers of a different era. But it's fascinating how we can look at the evolution that started in the 1800s with films and the dynamics of special effects and all of these different things. And I just thought that Steed was the greatest because he always looked perfectly dressed. and
Oh,
his
yeah.
bowler and his umbrella that always had these unique capabilities. An umbrella
Yes.
that, is just something you would expect in a spy novel, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, big style. Yes, very much so.
No
Absolutely. Yes,
profanity.
it was very much a sweet spot that occurred in the 60s. I mean, everyone would say that the 60s changed the world, and I think that it did. It allowed you to be more expressive in your art, especially, which is where it was particularly aimed at. So we got these fantastic movies, these fantastic shows, these fantastic producers, writers, and directors, and visionary people. And it really has lasted the test of time, and it's gone on to infuse today's talent because they're operating in the here and now, and they're satisfying their crowd, they're satisfying their audiences to endless proportions, and that is absolutely fantastic. And you can just look back and see how fantastic an era that it actually was, and from where it started from, because from where it started from, there was this massive explosion of talent and wonder and visual artistry and wonderfully fantastic feeling that came along with that. And I think a sense of pride definitely shines through, and that definitely transmitted from all that time ago. And as you say, it has been an absolute evolution of that entire form.
Very much so. When you finished this book and the different games that can be done, the crossword puzzles, there is so much here that you put into it. What has been the response? Now, this book just recently came out, correct?
Yes.
What has
been? The response has been absolutely overwhelming. It's hard to put into words because the amount of happy feeling that I've had from releasing this book just in the Avengers fan community. For one thing, they have come back to me with absolutely glowing responses and loving the book. And it's gone worldwide. We ship worldwide to everybody, and it's been an absolutely fantastic journey. Because one friend of mine who got a copy of it here in the UK had never ever seen the show, and just gave a quick thumb through of the book and said, "That's enough to make me watch it." And they went ahead and watched it, and it was that kind of feeling of, oh, okay, I introduced you into something new, which is absolutely fantastic. And the response to this book has been so overwhelming and so fantastically positive. It's been wonderful.
When you finished it, you've given a legacy to a series by doing this book, the Avengers, the official quiz book. Roy, for you, when you reflect on your passion that you had for the show from the time you were 9 years old and even to today, this must give you a very strong sense of, I've really contributed to the ongoing enjoyment of this particular program. I mean, it's a total of 8 years of programming that brings together such a diversity of feeling. And even though it was made back in the 50s and 60s, it's so relevant in so many ways, even today.
Very much so. And yes, you're absolutely right. My passion is running through this title, and it's been running from the moment that I was introduced to this series. And every fan, I think, if you follow a certain band, if you follow a certain filmmaker, if you follow an actor, a producer, or any kind of thing like that, you have a story to tell as you celebrate their career or anything else like that. And I definitely wanted to give back to this show. The show has been everything for me. It's been my friend, it's been my mentor, it's been my rock, it's been my lover, it's been absolutely everything in this entire world to me. And this was one way of giving back to it, and I'm immensely proud of it. And the acknowledgements are quite long in the book, but I just thank everybody for just encouraging me with it. The amount of talented friends that got involved with the project and helped me with it. BAFTA Award winner Brett Jones, who did my cover. It was amazing. He put me onto my typesetter, Duncan Lilly, who was absolutely brilliant and had so much patience as we got it right and made sure that this was the look that we wanted. This should be here, this should be there. And the publisher's belief in it, the rights holders' belief in it, everybody right down to the printer. It's been such a joy, an absolute joy.
With the cover is amazing. It's just
It
beautiful.
is. It's absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely beautiful. And boy, when I found out that I had an opportunity to chat with you and to bring this to my audience, I said, oh, this is wonderful. This is something that I think will be enjoyed. The series will be enjoyed, and your book would be enjoyed because people can go in and watch different segments, and it's streamed on YouTube. There's just so much that is available for this, and I just think it's amazing how something can literally become an icon that at the time when they did it had no idea that in the years that would be coming up, here we are in 2024, and here is this love and passion for a program done in the 1950s and 60s. It's just incredible.
Yes.
Just incredible.
It's in its 63rd year, coming up to 64th year. It's still relevant. It's fantastic entertainment, a melting pot of talent, both on and off the camera. I will celebrate this forever. It's one of the jewels in the crown of entertainment, and it's loved by a great many people. And I hope this book reaches every single one of them and brings them joy, and it reaches a new audience as well, because this is one hell of a fantastic show to be introduced to. It is brilliant. Yes.
Now, the website that people can go to find out more, and I'll spell it out. It's quoitmedia.co.uk, and that's QUOITMEDIA.co.uk. Roy Bettridge, this has been absolutely a joy, and wow, you just never know what's going to happen and what's going to bring something to the forefront that stands the test of time and literally is in history books for what it was able to achieve, with people loving everything about it around the world. Thank you again for being my guest.
Thank you so much, Donna. It's been a pleasure.
This is Donna Seebo, and I wanted to be sure to give you out the website again for Roy Bettridge and the Avengers. It's with quoitmedia.co.uk, and that's QUOIT media.co.uk. Oh, it's an amazing book. We're going to be taking a break. I am not going to be available to take any calls, but that's all right. I'll be back in studio tomorrow evening, and we're going to be discussing, well, some very interesting information, and I'll be back in just a minute. We're going to take a bit of a break, and let's see what else I can share with you. The Donna Seebo Show is heard weekdays, Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 p.m. Pacific Time. Callers are welcome to call in during the second half of the program at 253-582-5597. Please note that the announcement is made at the bottom of the hour if I'm not in studio able to take phone calls. Warriors for Peace is heard every Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. For current information regarding my email newsletter, programming, and appearances, go to DelphiInternational.com. For information on publications, including my award-winning children's books, audiobooks, and more, go to MrsSeebosClassics.com.
This is Donna Seebo. If you or someone you know is an author and would like to be interviewed on the Donna Seebo Show or Warriors for Peace, please send a copy of the publication along with contact information, phone number, email, and website to the Donna Seebo Show, P.O. Box 99015, Lakewood, Washington 98496. That's the Donna Seebo Show, P.O. Box 99015, Lakewood, Washington 98496. Please allow 6 to 8 weeks for review. Thank you.
Who's coming up on the Donna Seebo Show? Well, we've got quite a listing of guests. Tomorrow we're going to be talking with Anna Margolina, and this is a woman that has done a lot of research regarding a healthy skin, physical wellness, and this is titled Qigong. And we're going to be discussing this tomorrow evening. It's really fascinating. We women are always very concerned about being able to take care of our skin and keeping it nice until we're in our elder years. And that is something that all too often we forget how to do, or we don't know what to do. And obviously, when you start young, that is how you're going to have a good complexion when you are a mature woman. But this is something that we can all benefit from. You guys, too, can benefit from it. All right, so we're going to start off next week with the last decade of cinema with Scott Ryan, and then Seeing the Dead, Talking with Spirits, Alexandra Laguerre, and then we're going to be talking about Lebanese cuisine with Lila Kursky, Mr. Z, who is considered one of the top gamblers in the casino environments, even globally. He was just an incredible man. This is an incredible story that his son has written. And veteran debt. Jerry Ashton is going to be my guest. This is something that is a subject matter I was sent information on and what I was given details about. Quite fascinating. That and so much more. The email newsletter went out on the 1st, and you can go to my website. You can view that email newsletter at any time, 24/7. And remember, I know that this is a holiday weekend and you're going to want to perhaps catch up with some of the shows I've done. Know that in the player, the latest 13 to 15 hours are made available for your convenience 24/7, and the archives are available 24/7. So know you can go in and you can do that. You can see it. Tomorrow I am excited because we are doing our first television broadcast for 2024. And that is one I will be giving you information about next week. So I'll fill you in on that, and we will hope to have it up and posted as quickly as possible. But we will have to do the editing before that is going to be done. And also, I want to say we've got a new person that's joined us on the Authors Showcase, and you are welcome to check that out as well. So anyway, moving right along, I wanted to share some things with you this evening because it is important. And again, I am not available by phone for calls, but by golly, I will be tomorrow evening. So just know that that is going to be possible. There are so many pieces, and I've mentioned this so frequently in doing my programs. I get so much material from all over the world. You know, I think about having a conversation with someone in London, Australia, an area of South America, Africa. It doesn't make any difference because of how we have improved communication. This is just fascinating, and we have all of these modalities available to us. The printed word, and books are not going to go out of style, contrary to popular opinion. We have videos. We have audiobooks. We have so many productions that are going on at any given moment. Documentaries, films with sci-fi scripts to them. We have anything and everything available where it just wasn't that way years ago. Well, it is today. And I wanted to share some information that I came across that I thought many of you might be interested in. It has to do with Dungeons and Dragons. Now, this, my goodness, I believe this started back in the 1970s or 80s. And I can remember some people that I knew that were very, very upset about this because it was a game. I knew nothing about it. But recently I got a little bit of an education regarding Dungeons and Dragons. And this was started by a group of young people. And they started it and they said, this is a game that can really, really be very, very much enjoyed by people. Well, it caught on, and people of all ages became engaged with it, and it was challenging. It was a game that enabled them to, figure things out. It was really quite something, and totally entertaining. And a lot of the games at the time that Dungeons and Dragons came out were oriented towards military, and there's still a lot of that is very popular with people. But you are with this, you have a chance with Dungeons and Dragons. You had a chance to be able to experience all kinds of different things and different types of problem solving, and you never get tired. It just kept evolving over and over and over again. And the individual that wrote about this was such a fan of it himself. And he said when he was growing up, he really loved the game, and he was told that it was the work of the devil. I mean, all kinds of statements were made about it, but it's still just as popular today as it was so many years ago. And it's 50th anniversary is this year. 50 years. This game has been around. Let's see, Monopoly, I think, is 100 years? Or I don't remember. Monopoly's just been around forever. But now, with Dungeons and Dragons, they've got 54 million fans worldwide. And it is up on YouTube. There is just so much out there. It's just totally fascinating. And the mythical creatures that are engaged in this game, well, you have a Persian aspect, and it used to be known as Iran. There are dragon-like serpents that are known as A-Z-I, and there is one called Dahaka. And it's all about a shepherd's daughters and how he made them his wives. And there is a hero that challenges this dragon and brings the girls to safety. And then you've got something based on Indian culture. And then you have another aspect of mythological beasts, if you will, and that's the elephant hunter. And there's all of these wonderful aspects of history that can be brought into the game, and the young people that were working with it were just having a marvelous time. And boy, that is something that is, again, 50 million people being fans. Absolutely astonishing. But there you go. Now, this, because it's the 4th of July, I thought I would share with you something about a man that I knew nothing about, which there's a lot I don't know anything about, and I'm sure you could say the same thing about yourself. We're always going to be exposed to things that you might feel that would be right under your nose and available to you, but not necessarily. And it's about a congressman. His name was Peter F. Mack, and he actually became a diplomat, a U.S. diplomat, and he also made aviation history. Now, we're stepping back into the 1950s, and he was from Southern Illinois, and he was given a challenge from a friend of his. And his friend's name was John Hobbs, and he was an automobile parts manufacturer. Now, in the 1950s, we were very much engaged in the Cold War. Europe was in shatters because World War II had not been over for very long. The Soviet Union, well, they had finally gotten the bomb, and there were war activities going on in Korea, French Indochina, And Iran, there were things going on. It was just a mess globally. Sound familiar? We still have these messes going on in so many ways, even today. But back in the 1950s, his friend challenged him because he said, there's really a negative as far as the United States goes, and that is because we don't know how to communicate with other countries. He said, it's all about what this Mr. Hobbes said, the top brass only talking with the top brass. Nobody is paying attention to the average individual. Well, Hobbes ended up taking on the challenge. Now, he was only 34 years old at the time, and they figured out that there was a way that he could do something nobody else was willing to do. He would fly literally around the world in a very small single-prop plane. I'm not kidding. That's what he did. He worked out, along with Hobbes, an idea for a global goodwill tour. And it was to start in Springfield, Illinois, and it was to end in Springfield, Illinois. Well, what is the plane that was used? It was a single-engine Beechcraft Bonanza. The plane actually was at the Smithsonian Institution because there was a racing pilot by the name of Bill Odom that had used this very plane in 1949 to set a world record. What was that world record? It was a nonstop long-distance flight. He flew 4,957 miles from Honolulu to Teterboro, New Jersey. Now, this small plane was equipped with extra gas tanks on the wingtips and also in the cabin. That was going to enable Peter Mac to reach a lot of places within a particular time frame more effectively and more efficiently. Well, he went to the Smithsonian. They gave him permission to use the plane, and it was going to be given back to the Smithsonian once the flights were all done. And Mac paid the Beach Company $3,200 to have the airplane reconditioned. So he just didn't take it out of the museum and fly it. He had to have all of it reinforced and checked out for safety, etc. And the company said, we think this is a great idea. So these two men, Mac and Hobbes, they budgeted $10,000 for the trip. Now, a lot of people donated very small amounts of money, but it added up, and they were able to get this all together. And on October the 7th, 1951, he took off on the adventure of a lifetime. Actually, historically, he became one of the very first humans to complete a solo flight around the world, and he was the first to cross the Pacific Ocean alone in a light airplane. And when people find out about what he had done, one of the comments that was made is how one person can make the world a better place, sometimes in ways that they could never imagine. Now, Peter Mac, said that goodwill is everyone's job, and I'm thoroughly convinced that it's the responsibility of every American citizen. So here you go. He had a flying background. He served in the Navy. He also was a flight instructor in the Navy, and he was elected to Congress in 1948, and he did all kinds of wonderful things, working with students, etc. But he had never, as a pilot, flown across oceans or deserts. And for 113 days, He had challenges he could never imagine that were going to be faced. He went across the Atlantic, and he had to stop at the Azore Islands to be able to refuel. But there he is. He ends up going into Madrid, Amsterdam, Oslo, and Helsinki. He wasn't able to enter the Soviet Union because the Cold War was going on. However, when he got into Germany, the welcome he received there was just amazing because of what the Americans and what the British had done to help the German people survive because of the Soviet conflict that we had and the arrangement that was made that was not allowing for food and other items to get into the German people after the war ended. But he also went on to London, Glasgow, Belfast, Dublin, Paris, Luxembourg, Geneva, Nice, Rome, and Athens. The response that he got from people in 1951 was just absolutely incredible. And there was one point where he actually was falling asleep while he was flying the plane, and that really scared him badly. But he was exhausted. He was going to all of these different places, and he was able to get over the Alps. He could have had a serious crash there. Switzerland, that was an interesting landing, and there were so many other countries that he actually participated in, and he said that what he saw with poverty in so many parts of the world, and he got a bird's eye view, but also had a wonderful interaction with average, everyday people. And he wasn't meeting with the rich and the famous. He was meeting with people on the street. He would have the meetings with the, the exclusive people, as you might want to describe them as being. But he said, we just had so much that we had never, ever really engaged with. The Philippines, he was in Japan, and he said, on January 21, after flying 2,400 miles from Hawaii, he lands in San Francisco, and he completed the world's first solo crossing of the Pacific in a light plane. He returned to Springfield, Illinois on January 27, 1952. He had flown 33,000 miles, visited 45 cities, and 35 countries. There was a crowd of over 10,000. When he landed, was there just cheering him like crazy. Well, the plane was returned to the Smithsonian. He went back to Congress, and he served as a congressman until 1963. He said, I, by doing this trip, have a whole new perspective, and I hope for peace. From where I sat, I could see no international boundaries and no squabbles among nations. During those lonely hours, I thought more and more of peace and of the folly of man fighting man, and wherever I went, I found people echoing my very same sentiments. Ah, my goodness, what a story. An incredible man, and I'm sure if you go and check out his name, and by the way, the plane is still on exhibition at the Smithsonian. You can check out Peter F. Mack and see about the rest of the story. Donna Seebo here. I know that we're just about out of time. I'll be back in station studio with you tomorrow, and the phone line will be open to you. Remember always that you're the master of your fate. You are the captain of your soul. Each and every one of us in our own way. We might not be flying planes or trying to set records of any kind, but it's what we do every day, how we interact with people, how we have compassion, and how we can listen to people. And just know that just you being the best you possibly can be, you, like all the rest of us that are aiming for that very same positioning, well, we do make a difference right where we are, no matter where we are on this planet. God bless, be well, and you have a fabulous day or evening wherever you are. I'll be talking with you tomorrow. Bye for now.
You've been listening to The Donna Seebo Show. We're delighted that you were able to join us and invite you to tell your friends and family about the program. Have a wonderful day.